Hi friends, and welcome to today's debrief episode of Finding Your Casual Magic. If you've been here before, then you would know that on this podcast we explore how to find beauty in the mundane things every day and redefining living an amazing life away from just achieving big achievements, but really believing that life is now. Right now, in the present moment, you can always access the joy that you desire, if only you retrain your brain to notice the beauty. Every fourth episode of the podcast is a chatty, casual little debrief where I'm just sitting at home, I've got a hefty mug of tea, and today we're going to talk about the last 3 episodes of the podcast, all the behind the scenes gossip, all my personal learnings. And if you haven't already had a chance to go listen to them, I highly recommend it. Maybe today's episode will inspire you to. But also, as a science of learning girly, you know that I believe in spaced repetition. And this episode is kind of an opportunity for you to reflect on those episodes, to recall any learnings that you found particularly interesting and relevant to your life. How are you guys today? How are your hearts feeling? I am just coming through a cold, which is truly a marker that summer is basically over because it's getting colder. It's just been raining all morning in Brighton and your gal had a fever. I've had like a very runny nose, so I've been sort of taking it slow, recovering, and today I feel ready to record. And my heart is feeling still tender. It's been a very emotional last month of my life, but definitely less fragile than it's been. One little bit of housekeeping before we jump in is that I'm going to be taking kind of like a mid-season break. Not sure if it's going to be a week or 2 weeks, so stay tuned. But just to recalibrate, and also I've just been going through a lot of my personal life, so yeah, I could do with like a little break from the podcast, and it gives you guys a chance to go back and listen to any episodes that you haven't been able to listen to yet. So without further ado, let's jump into the first 2 rituals of every episode. The first ritual, I'm going to listen to a moment of casual magic that one of you guys has sent me, and this is the first time that I'm listening to it. This one is from Nicole.
Hi Jay, my casual magic this week has been getting to spend time with my little sister. We're both on summer vacation, so I'm taking care of her, and it's just such a blessing to see her learn and grow. Thank you for the reminder to keep finding little joys in our everyday. Sending lots of love.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. It's so special. I don't know if you guys, if you have a sibling, if you relate to this feeling, but I just love my little brother so much. He's not even that little anymore. He's 22? But every time I get to see him, especially in adulthood, because we see each other less frequently now, I just feel so grateful for him. Like, it's just having a built-in bestie who knows all your history and the important people in your life. And yeah, I love him so much. So thank you, Nicole, for sharing this and for reminding me of my own love for my sibling. And now, just like we do every week, I invite you to take a moment to just check in with yourself, and we're going to meditate for about a minute. So if you're out and about or you're commuting, there's no pressure to close your eyes. You can kind of just take a moment to appreciate your surroundings. But if you are able to, I dare you to close your eyes. Start to notice the breath in your body. Feel the parts of your body that move as the breath comes in through your nose, and how your body shifts at the exhale. Maybe notice any areas of tension in your body right now. Can you do anything to relieve that tension? Maybe rolling your shoulders back, dropping your shoulders, relaxing your jaw, relaxing your forehead. And can you make this next breath the deepest breath you've taken today? Ready? We're going to breathe in through the nose. Fill your lungs, expand your chest. And when you're ready, a big exhale Exhaling out all the air from your body, even more air than maybe realised is there. Take a moment to feel the effects of all that fresh oxygen in your body. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Welcome to the episode. So today's very rough theme is going through times of adversity. We do not like adversity. Adversity can take many shapes and forms, as we know. It can be anything from exam season stress to navigating a breakup and feeling heartbreak to, in my case, grieving the loss of loved ones, or, as I think many of us are also experiencing, collective grief for the adversity that many people around the world are facing, from people in Palestine to people in Congo. You know, we've never been able to see the suffering of others be more platformed to us via social media. All this fucking injustice in the world, you know. And though that adversity might not be directly our own, you know, we humans are empathetic and we want the best for others, and being aware of others' adversity can really affect us emotionally too. I think it's really interesting how we all have our own means of getting through adversity. To me, there's such a stark contrast between the kind of harden yourself, push through, grind mindset, David Goggins mindset, where adversity is almost an opportunity to prove yourself, prove your strength. And I think that mindset is most classically adopted by men. People socialize as men, that adversity requires you to step up, to not cower in the face of these emotions. And I think that there's positives and negatives to that mindset. And then there's the opposite approach to dealing with adversity, which is feeling your feelings, almost like softening to that adversity, perhaps surrendering to it, and moving through that adversity as something that feels like it's been given to you to teach you certain lessons, and that you don't need to harden around it, that you can soften to it. And I think that based on the type of adversity, both mindsets really have their value. If you're running a marathon, you want this grind mindset of like, I will get through this, I will push through this, the pain is worth it. But to me, in something like heartbreak, I think you really deserve to surrender and feel all those feelings because they're evidence of love. And something I've been thinking about a lot recently is this idea of Locus of Control. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I think it's really useful when we discuss adversity. Locus of Control is the degree to which you think that the things that happen in your life are a product of you, of your actions, of your beliefs, of you trying or not trying, and the extent to which the events of your life are up to destiny and fate, or if they're because of you and your actions. If you're someone with an internal locus of control, then you believe that your actions are producing the consequences in your life. If someone has a really strong internal locus of control, they're unemployed, they need to seek a job, they believe that the only thing that is going to get them that job is their own hard work and effort. They don't believe that fate has an influence. They don't believe that there's luck involved. It's like, me and my hard work is going to produce the result I want. Whereas someone with an external locus of control, like fully external locus of control, might believe in God or fate, or that all the events of their life are produced by some external timing. That means that though we personally can try, events are always somewhat outside of our control, and we shouldn't fight that. And sort of this idea of everything is happening for a reason. I started my life with a very internal locus of control. As a high achiever, someone really ambitious, I always thought it is up to me to produce the results that I want to see in my life. And that's really served me in succeeding and creating a lot of the achievements that I wanted to create. But I think can also lead to poor mental health, to burnout, because if things aren't going your way, you sort of blame yourself and you can have this like perfectionism. And so the older I get, the more that I've learned to release that control and to believe in some kind of external locus of control, some kind of universe or spiritual influence that means that the events of my life are somewhat decided by something I can't control, and that perhaps when things are happening that are bad, that there really is a reason I need to trek through that difficult time. I'm really learning to be more neutral to the events of life, whether they're really positive or classically really negative, like whether, you know, I get like an incredible job promotion, suddenly earn a lot of money, or if I'm navigating heartbreak and grief. I'm trying not to compare them as like one being a really good stage of life and another being a really like awful stage of life, because I just think that we have so much to learn from the whole full spectrum of human experience, and that I am being handed difficult times and difficult emotions because there's value in it. And my spiritual beliefs, which you don't have to agree with and I don't necessarily have evidence for, but gives me a lot of comfort in this life, is that I really believe each of us is kind of like a soul who has chosen this life and has chosen to be you, to be this body, to, you know, have the parents that you had, to sort of walk this life path that you're going to walk, and that each of our souls have lessons to learn in this lifetime, and that every time you're met with adversity or you're met with a strong intuition to do something or go somewhere, it's up to you to listen to that intuition in order to learn the soul lessons that you need to learn in this lifetime. And I just find that a really beautiful way to trust the process of my life and to believe that everything is happening in a divine timing. I will never have a fully external locus of control, just because I do think you need to try in this life. You need to still work hard. You need to still get up and do things, make actions in order for life to bring you to where you want to go. But there's this wonderful concept in Vietnamese and Chinese that my roommate at university taught me called Zun Fen. I'm probably butchering that. Zun Fen. And it's like this idea of hard work meeting opportunity and fate, and that we both need to put effort in to ready ourselves for the opportunities of the universe, and we need to trust in divine timing giving us the luck that we desire. So if you're facing any kind of adversity, I hope that you can bring yourself to see that it's not all your fault, it's not all under your control, that there is a reason, however you want to rationalize that reason, for you going through this adversity, whether it's to change your life path in a positive way, to teach you lessons that will make you a more well-rounded human, or to fight injustice that needs fighting on behalf of other people. And how beautiful that adversity shows us how strong we are, shows us the communities we have to support us through these times, shows us inner strength we maybe didn't know that we had. And I'm proud to be walking through this adversity in my life right now with compassion, gentleness, and, as I discussed in one of the episodes, in the last 3 episodes, a real desire to keep an open heart and to keep loving despite having lost love. Okay, I'd love to first debrief my solo episode, just because I think it's very in line with what we're discussing. That was the most raw podcast episode that I've done so far. I had a plan for something I wanted to discuss. I had a script, I had a team watching me on set, and words just didn't come. I felt so tight. I don't know if you've ever experienced suppressing a feeling. If you don't let it come, you just feel like kind of numb and tight in a way that it's hard to like give any warmth or positive emotion. And I'm so grateful because my friend Ben was working, he was potato farming at the site in the podcast studio, and so he was watching some of the episode and he could see that I was really struggling, and he just went, Jade, you know you don't have to deliver this episode. Like, yes, you've planned it, yes, you've got the script ready, but you could also just speak from the heart. You could also just ask everyone to leave and just talk about what's true today. You could just talk about the grief you're experiencing. And so that's what I did. And I'm so grateful for his little nudge to do that, because that was such an authentic episode. It was so scary to publish. It's literally just me crying and like lamenting pessimistically about the state of the world. But I've been so warmed by your comments and loving words. I haven't like personally responded to a lot of them because I was just going through so much, and like I didn't feel like I could respond. But I felt so held and so grateful. So thank you for returning my vulnerability back. Like, I offered it on a plate and you guys served vulnerability back, and I'm just so grateful. I would actually love to read a few comments. Someone said, I highly recommend writing Willow and your grandfather letters. It will be great for processing your emotions, and as someone who believes in an afterlife, I think they will know what you've written in them, which is so beautiful. And I've already written my granddad a letter, And when I go back home to my family home, I want to write Willow a letter. Someone said, Jade, I'm so sorry for the loss of your dog and grandfather. I lost my older sister last year to cancer. She didn't even get to turn 30. What people don't understand about grief is that avoiding the topic makes us feel worse and isolated. I wish people asked me more about my sister instead of sweeping her death under the rug, like it's something to move on from. I wish people could celebrate her life with me instead of avoiding her death when I bring it up. Crying is such a privilege. I haven't been able to cry for years, which made me feel numb and bottle up a lot of things. When I do manage to cry, I feel blessed that I'm finally able to let some of that heaviness go. As an answer to your question, know that everything in this life is temporary. Feelings come and go. Life is beautiful because it's hard. Thank you for this episode. It felt like a conversation with a friend. I'm sure most of us don't mind more personal episodes like this. So many people experiencing loss. My God. Gosh, Jade, I haven't actually verbalized this to anyone, but it's like you spoke from my heart. I relate so much to being an optimistic, ambitious, positive soul that had such a good outlook on life and tried everything to heal and be positive. Recently, I grieved a miserable breakup, and ever since, I also wondered if I could ever open my heart to someone again. I feel like I don't see it all so positively anymore, and I just wish to be naive again. I hope you know you are being held in many hearts, and I wish I could give you a hug. Although that might sound weird coming from a stranger. No, I will accept your hug gladly. But I really wanted to say that you are not alone. What a privilege to be held by you guys. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry for all of your losses, all of you who are navigating grief. It is soul ravaging and it hits you in like the most random moments with such force. Keep being gentle with yourselves too. And from your advice to the question I posed was, how do you keep an open heart when the world can be so miserable? How do you keep an open heart when you have lost love and you're traumatized? And the sort of very balanced conclusion I came to from your words is that it's okay to close your heart to certain people and that the world is a miserable place sometimes and we do need to protect our hearts, but that opening our hearts is what life is about and is actually real evidence of strength. A lot of the common sentiment is that a closed heart is what it means to be strong. You know, having walls up is what it means to be strong. When in reality, being hurt and still choosing to love, that is strength. Processing your feelings enough to then still open again, that is strength. And so yeah, my message around adversity is, can you feel it all? Can you feel all the pain? Can you lose love and still choose to love anyway again? Rather than becoming hateful, can you choose love again? And that is what will heal ourselves, that's what will heal others, and that's what will heal the world. But knowing that there's no rush to open your heart, you can keep it closed as much as you need in order to protect yourself. I feel that with the internet too. It's like I want to open my heart endlessly to all of you. But then sometimes people are just mean, and sometimes I get hate comments, and then I'm like, oh, I should not serve all of my life and all of my vulnerability out to people on the internet. Because I think when I'm filming, I'm imagining how I know most of you are, which is really loving and just beautiful people, but not everyone is like that. So, you know, how can I both protect myself from those people while still offering up vulnerability to all of you who are just as sensitive and deserve it. But yeah, on the topic of grief, I'm feeling lighter. It's still painful, it still hits me in stabbing random moments, but feeling the feelings somatically, like letting it come through my body, letting actual tears flow, letting actual grief ravage me is the way through it, in my opinion, because now I'm able to feel joy again. I went to my first lesbian wedding on Sunday. I watched one of my best friends, Eve Cornwell, get married to her gorgeous now wife, and I was able to feel such profound joy. I was crying tears of joy, even though I had been crying because of grief the day before. So feeling my grief is helping me still feel my joy, because the extent to which you suppress one emotion is the extent to which you suppress them all. So keep feeling, my darlings. And the more I keep feeling, the more open I am to seeing the beauty and casual magic in life. Like the little rainbow sun flecks on the window, or the rose petals in my garden, or watching the way that Eve laughed with Lucy and looked at each other with so much love. Like, there is so much casual magic available. Okay, if you guys watch the episode with Ben, my good friend Ben, then you would have seen adversity spoken about in a very different lens, because Ben was a climate activist for many years. He still is in different ways. But he has the most inspiring story where his passion and love for nature inspired him to take often quite dangerous direct action against big corporations, organisations that are very much ruining the climate. It landed him in prison 9 times, and he has managed to transform his grief and anger and frustration at the world into love, like mobilized love in action, where he creates community in person. He builds resilience for the turbulent times ahead. I'm tempted to say it was my favorite episode so far, actually. I think he's just such a wonderful speaker, and I was so warmed to see how many of you guys in the comments were amazed by him. It can often feel like a risk to watch an episode of someone who is not a public figure, right? He's not a celebrity, doesn't have a big following. But for all of you who did watch that episode, I think a lot of you were just amazed. He's so wise for his age. He's just lived so much life. And my mum was raving about that episode for 10 minutes to me yesterday on a video call. And she even sent it to one of her friends who is a big community builder. And he talks about this idea of a culture of care, how the solutions that we need in our society are about creating more care for ourselves, care for others, and care for nature. And then when we foster that care, we foster that deep connection, that you'll be surprised how many world issues are solved. And that to him, the greatest casual magic is the deep connection we foster to other living beings. He talked a lot about indigenous practices of these lands, aka the UK. And I think often in the UK, we don't ever consider indigenous practices in the context of England, because we often think of ourselves as the colonizers, especially white people in the UK. We know that our ancestors are responsible for so much destruction around the world, and we are very disconnected as a people from the nature here and what's best for that nature and our roots and ancestors. But Ben really helpfully talked about a lot of old Celtic practices and how we can integrate them into our modern lives. The real tea is that episode we recorded for 4 hours. 4 hours. I actually think I could host a podcast with Ben. We've got so much to yap about. There's much to say. So it was a real challenge to edit that down. I think I spent 3 hours watching it, trying to give timestamp recommendations of what to cut. And my wonderful editor and assistant also hacked away at that episode. But it was so worth it, because it's just it's full of wisdom. If you haven't listened to that episode, I highly recommend it in order to have a new view on how spirituality, how connecting to others, how connecting to nature is something extremely radical, and it is something that has a deeper impact and ripple effect for the world than you might realise. Also, when you're just actually friends with someone, it's just banter. It was just banter on set, which is great. Sometimes when I've not met a guest before, I'm I need to be cool, need to make them respect me. But nah, Ben already gets me. And then I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing an amazing guy called Adam Lind. Is that his name? That's actually so bad. I was gonna say Adam Grant. That's obviously not him. Adam wrote an incredible book called Floating Home, inspired by the fact that he lives on a houseboat in England and has done for 10 years. But if you don't know his story, guys, he literally hitchhiked from the Netherlands to India using no planes, no trains, no buses, only hitchhikes. So it took him 5 years and over 1,000 hitchhike journeys, and he just travelled the entire world landmass essentially on this giant adventure, learning about other cultures, learning about himself. And I just think it's the coolest story. How often do you meet someone who's been on such an adventure like that? And he did it so affordably because he relied on the kindness of strangers. He mainly couch surfed, he stayed on people's couches. He would travel for hours in people's cars, and I think a lot of us have massive fear of strangers, particularly in the south of England, where it's really not cultural to strike up conversation with strangers. And we had a really enriching discussion around how much it can change our day and strangers' days when we just strike up conversation. It can be as small as complimenting someone, asking how their day is, and he's so articulate. My God, he is so warm, so approachable. Like, the whole team after that day were like, wow. Like, just wow. Like, he is an amazing speaker. So if you haven't already listened to that episode, I highly recommend it. Guys, he just has the wildest stories. Like, he lived in a community in Portugal that was fully naked. Can you imagine? He lived in like a naked community for 30 days, and every night someone would have to sleep by the fire to keep the fire going on behalf of the whole community, and they would just do all these like traditional practices, like bonding practices and stuff. It's kind of wild. It's like cult commune vibes, but not a cult. I don't know why I've always been so drawn to people who live alternative lifestyles. You know, I went to an untraditional university, also took a gap year. I'm not saying that these are the most radical alternative things that you can do, but I am fascinated by the concept of communes, of living beyond the nuclear family, of challenging ideas like monogamy or the traditional 9-to-5 life path. Like, anything that is really mainstream, I like to challenge to see whether it's something that actually should be adopted, like if there's a lot of sense to it, or if perhaps a new model could be created through curiosity and creativity. And one of the most memorable things about Adam's episode was the fact that he lost his father at a very young age, and grief was one of the levers that most shaped his life and really forced him to question what he wants out of life on Earth and what he wanted to do with this one life that he was offered. And it's so inspiring and really sticks with me as a reminder to seize this one life that we have, to use it in service of ourselves, of others, and nature, to go out of our comfort zones, to go on adventures, to believe that humans can be good. Like, it's such a breath of fresh air as an episode, and he also is really into spirituality and meditation. It was great. Highly recommend. Also, afterwards, me and him just sat by the fire outside and yapped for like an hour, because there's just so much to say, and I am so lucky that through this podcast I get to connect to really like-minded people and make friends out of them. And I was in awe of the vulnerability that he shared with me after the episode around relationship issues he's going through, and just like very difficult things in his life. He was such an open book, and I love people who are open books. So yeah, this month's episode's inspiring as always, and we've been in the new set, which has been amazing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on you know, this teepee yurt in the middle of the forest that we're recording in, but also, you know, heavy. We've discussed a lot of adversity and how it's shaping us, from my grief to Ben's collective climate grief to Adam's grief for his father that transformed his life. And I think for me it's a reminder that when we go through tough times, we can't yet see all the positives and the beauty in how it can shape us for the better and be something that we might one day be grateful for, even though that is terrifying and crazy to imagine right now while we're going through it. So if you are struggling with anything, I just want to send you so much love, so much compassion, biggest hug possible. My casual magic today was waking up to pouring rain, the most cathartic rain you can imagine. It felt like it was washing away my pain. It was really stunning, especially because I've been coming through an illness, and I think there's something so cozy about rain. And I love to end every episode by providing you with some journal prompts that you can ask yourself about today's topic, just to really deepen the learnings for you. So if you feel called to, feel free to grab a journal or your notes app, or just answer them in your head. What kind of locus of control do you feel you have over your life? Is it more internal or external? How do you think this shapes you in positive or negative ways? What is an example of adversity that you've been through in the past? How has that adversity shaped you for better or worse? And finally, how can you keep your heart open during difficult times? Thank you guys so much for listening. It always means the world. I'm about to have a coughing attack. I'm sorry. If no one has told you today, I hope you remember that you are enough exactly as you are, no matter what grief you are going through, no matter what adversity you're going through. You are walking through it valiantly. I'm honoured that you're in this corner of the internet. I'm sending you so much love. Stay tuned and stay magical.